Right, mate, let's get into it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to One Leeds. Welcome back to the debrief. I'm here on my phone, so production isn't amazing. Apologies for that one. We'll be back in the studio very, very soon to record the debrief again, I'm sure. But I'm joined by my co-host, the co-host with the mostest. Is that what is it, Brownie? The what is it? Something with the mostest? I don't know I don't know how you phrase that, but something like
Hostess
that.
with the mostest.
The what?
Hostess with the mostest.
Is that what it is? Yeah. Okay. Kind of works, but it doesn't really. So Brownie's going to sound a lot better than me on this one. But guys, I hope you caught the review. Brownie, I don't know if you caught it in there, but I was basically doing a live review all the way back from Ellen Road.
Walking away from the game.
But mate, do you know what? Always get predictions wrong, but I'm always a good luck charm, mate. They don't lose when I'm there. So I've got tickets for the Brighton game.
There more often then, because I tell you what, I mean, I saw a stat. Yesterday was equal the amount of points we've got in 2023 altogether. So in 2023, in the previous 7 games, we picked up 3 points, and then lo and behold, yesterday we pick up 3 points in 1 game. So just you come away just with that sigh of relief, don't you? Like everybody's buzzing. We can't get carried away because it's just 1 game, but it's just a bit of a. It felt like if we didn't win yesterday, then it was curtains.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you, mate. I think it's so funny as well, you know, mate. Like going because you always bring like a completely different perspective to the debrief, and obviously you go week in week out. Obviously I'm not able to anywhere with work, but I wouldn't get down there as often as you do. But I tell you what, mate, when you're down there, you get such a different perspective on the game, don't you? I mean, I was West Stand, so I was 3 rows back, so I was literally pitch side, mate, and I was in line with Weston McKennie for a lot of it. And we'll get into the individual player performances, but I know it sounds ridiculous, but the perspective you get from the game is so much different to what you get on TV, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes at the game you don't see some of the things that obviously the TV cameras pick up. So obviously there's that element to it. But I don't know, I just feel like, and this is nothing against because it's so hard to get tickets, but I just feel like you get a different sense when you're at the game. You get a different feeling. Obviously, your emotions are involved in the game. And you see different things. Like I say, the TV cameras pick up certain things, and at the game, you see things that the TV cameras don't pick up. So there is that element to it, yeah. Obviously, I know people are different, but I get carried away when I'm at a game as well. Like you just get involved with it. Sometimes when you're watching on the TV, when you can't get to a game, you'll just go off and just go and make a cup of tea or something, or you'll do something. But in your game, you're just so, I don't know, adrenaline. You're just pumped into the game, and it's the atmosphere there. Like obviously, like yesterday, it's electric. So, yeah, it's different to being there to watching on TV, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is why they need to get that West Stand built a bit more, because obviously everybody wants to get to games, and it is hard. It is so hard to get tickets, so they need to get that West Stand built upon.
Yeah, mate. Unless you know someone, it is virtually impossible. I mean, I wouldn't have got tickets yesterday if I didn't know someone. So it is what it is. But James says huge win. Let's get on the new Furpo train. We'll get onto him in a little bit. But guys, this is probably going to be going for about half an hour, 35 minutes. Then me and Brownie are going to be doing a pre-record for the Patreon members for the Fulham and Chelsea game. So if you want a little bit of extra content, that the Patreon link will be in the description below. But right, mate. So what? Where should we start, mate? Should we start first half? Obviously, the lineup was announced. Harrison was on the right. Obviously, Nonso, I believe he was on the left, wasn't he? Aronson through the middle. Aronson looked like the only change of the game. Overall, first half, I mean, I'll give my perspective on things. I mean, I once again, this is what I was leading on to, mate, when it came to the eye test and stuff. I thought personally they weren't pressurising really on our central midfielders, so the double pivot. I thought Southampton were quite lackadaisical when it came to that. So I would have liked a little bit more of McKennie getting the ball on the back foot and moving forward. It seemed sometimes that I don't know about you, mate, but I felt like the handbrake was on a little bit, maybe a little bit of nerves, and sometimes I was getting a little bit frustrated at McKennie in that first half because there was options to take it on the back foot and move forward, but it all seemed quite safe there. I think that summarised the first half, really. I think it seemed a little bit cagey, didn't it?
I think cage is the exact word. It was 2 teams that couldn't lose.
Yeah.
So to go at it full throttle from the off, you risk the element of losing the game straight away. The game, as we saw, didn't have to be won in the first minute. as long as you break that team down, and that's vital. The thing that stood out to me was goal kicks. We had fullbacks hugging the touchline. We had wingers hugging the touchline. We had 4 players, 2 at either side, on the touchline. And I think it showed with the data that was produced that the passes on the pitch, we covered the whole pitch. We weren't just playing in one area of the pitch. We were playing in every area. That was my biggest. Oh, okay. It was goal kicks. I've seen a picture. Someone had a great picture of it on social media. There was Ayling literally stood on one touchline, Firpo stood on the other, and they had, I'm sure it was Aronson just ahead of Ayling and Nonto on the other side. They were spreading it as wide as they could, which, like you alluded to, would have created more space for Adams and McKennie to get the ball and go on the half turn and play forward. But first half, it did have that feel of 2 teams not in form, not quite clicking. Needing
still sloppy at points. I thought.
Oh yeah, I mean the time where Southampton gave the ball away and we pounced, and I think it was actually McKennie who could have slipped Aronson with a ball in front of him, and it was slightly behind him, and then within 15 seconds they're getting a shot at Meslier. It did have that feel of we can't lose this game from both teams, which it will have been a nervy game for both teams, because you do feel whoever lost that game were in real trouble. Thankfully, it wasn't us. And like I say, as the game goes on, you don't want to be going in at half-time behind, which neither team were, which I think were both teams' game plan.
Yeah, so Giles says, morning, Conor and Brownie. We can enjoy the coming week. This hasn't happened for ages. You know what, Brownie? I watched Match of the Day for about the first time in 3 months. I'm not even kidding. There. Sat there, enjoyed it, enjoyed Everton losing, enjoyed Bournemouth getting slapped up. And it does bring a different feel to the weekend, doesn't it? But like you've alluded to, mate, that result yesterday was absolutely massive. Now, when I've got my cynical head on, which is mostly my head anyway, the Everton and Southampton game, I turned around and I said, look, that had to be 4 points, really. But now you feel like with the new manager coming in, the different style that we saw yesterday, which was evident, and obviously Firpo's comments after the game, which were quite telling. If you did miss them, he pretty much said that, it's I can get the best, I can get obviously the best of Junior Firpo because I'm playing wide. And you have a little bit of renewed optimism, don't you? And of course, mate, we've got to contextualise it. Leeds are outside the relegation zone now, so they've got to build on that, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the most disappointing thing for me with the Everton game was not only performance, but the situation we're in. We didn't get any points, but they got 3. Like you say, even if it's just a point apiece, you stay in that same position. But I mean, the Old Trafford point, I think that was a bonus point. Nobody really in right mind thought we were going to go there and get anything. So that kind of gives us that 4 points that we wanted. It was just Everton getting three of them and keeping in touch, because I do feel like the way the league is shaping up, it could be a shootout between us and them at this present time. I said before the Southampton game, we needed 21 points for me to breathe easy. It gets you to the 40. In recent years, I do agree that you've not needed 40 points. 36, 37 is enough. But this year, I do feel you might need a few more because of how tight it is and how many points teams are picking up. So now, the way I'm looking at it is it's 18 points needed, which game by game, as long as that points tally keeps going down, 18 sounds a lot more doable than 21 does. And when you look at the games left, there's still some difficult games in there. So there's particular games that I'm looking and targeting. But you look at the remainder of the season, what's left? 14 games now.
Yeah, 14.
If we can pick up 4 wins, a couple of draws here and there, and pick up a win where we don't expect them, we should be okay. But I do agree with some of the comments. It is just 1 win. It was a needed win. It was a needed win, but it is just one, and it's something we do need to build on. Fixtures coming up. I mean, in the next 4 games, we've got Chelsea and Arsenal away. So there's no getting away from it. That game was massive, and me and you, I've said this numerous times, me and you were very critical pre-Christmas of some of the points we were chucking away against teams that we shouldn't have been, and now we're kind of having to play that catch-up. I think we've got Wolves and a game at home against Brighton. Again, you're looking, you need a win in one of them 2 games, and anything at Chelsea and Arsenal is a bonus for me. we can't go through periods now. I mean, 10 games without a win is bonkers. It's ridiculous. We can't do that again. We can't go through spells of not picking up wins. We need to keep chipping away at that points tally and game by game, breaking that 18 points to 17, then to 14, and looking at it that way for me.
Yeah, I think it's got to get to a point like you said. I think the Chelsea game, I think we've got to get something from that, mate. Especially with the form they're in. Southampton have beaten them at home recently. Well, last week wasn't it? And for me, Southampton were nothing. Yesterday, I thought they were very, very poor. Definitely a team that's going to get relegated for me. So we've got to be looking at Chelsea. And listen, we know Chelsea will take Leeds United as a much bigger game than they took Southampton. We both know that, but. If they're keeping Potter in charge, this could be the point, that optimum point where, and we're going to get onto the Chelsea game in the Patreon preview that we're going to do after this. But like you said, mate, I mean, I was looking at the fixtures this morning and keeping your feet on the ground is definitely key. But Leeds, for me, have got to start picking up points against teams that they're not expected to pick up points against. Grazia has done it before when it's come to Watford. I believe they beat Man United at home. They've beaten, his Malaga team, but beat Barcelona and drew against them, So it's all about tactically looking at the game against Chelsea and thinking to yourself, we can set up in a way that's going to frustrate them and we can be effective as well. But for me, mate, we've got to start picking up points. You talk of Arsenal, we're going to talk of Spurs, of Newcastle and all these teams which, who are vying for that top 4, top 5. But Leeds have got to start picking up some points against some of them, I think, now.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you look at Chelsea, like you say, we'll get into it, and they're in a bit of disarray themselves. Do the players want Potter out? You have that feel of it that we play them and then 3 days later they've got Dortmund and they're trailing in that game. So you hear from Chelsea fans that their best way of getting into the Champions League is via winning the Champions League. So all their eggs going to be in the Dortmund game. Hopefully we can catch them on a day where they're purely thinking about Borussia Dortmund. But yeah. We've got ourselves into a position where every game is a game where we need to get something out of.
Who do you think was the standout yesterday? I mean, I was quite a big fan of him. I thought Adams was decent yesterday. I thought Verba was really good. And were there any standouts for you? Obviously, Nonso got taken off, didn't he? But I think that sub weirdly worked. Once again, Browning's it's been at the ground though, isn't it, mate? I mean, it's funny. I mean, I didn't think McKennie and Somerville were up to much yesterday, but then I got home and you're looking at the data. You're going on. You see LUFC data, and you see people online saying around and saying they were fantastic and all this sort of stuff. And it's that different perspective, isn't it? But yeah, mate, who stood out for you yesterday?
I always try and watch the game back because, like you said, there is a completely different perspective, and I'm sure at the ground a lot of people when Nonto's going off after an hour.
Verpo and Koch, by the way, I forgot about.
Yeah, those. I mean, the pairing of Koch and Werber is proving to be a good one for me. In recent years, we've not looked stable. I mean, we've got the win, but importantly, we got a clean sheet as well. We've been to Accrington recently and not even kept a clean sheet there. We've been to Cardiff, not kept a clean sheet there. So the clean sheet was a massive plus for me as well. Giving them defenders that confidence that we can keep teams out. Obviously, Firpo is going to be the standout boy. He got the more all-important goal. But yeah, like you said, the Nonto substitution on an hour, I'm sure a lot of people were scratching their heads at it. But when subs like that work, they work, and you look a genius. And that's what he gets paid the top dollar to do. But I'd go with that Verba and Koch partnership, giving us a real platform to go and win the game. Because in recent games and recent months and even recent years, we've needed 2 or 3 goals to win a game. So keeping a clean sheet gives you that platform to just need to nick one and you win. So if we see that a few more times this season, a few more clean sheets, it's going to give us such a better chance of winning games.
I think it was big as well, keeping James Ward-Prowse quiet, wasn't it? And I think what I noticed as well was we weren't giving away stupid fouls in and around the box. I remember down at Ellen Road when, obviously we were 1-0 up, weren't we? And then Southampton started, piling the pressure on last time they were at Ellen Road. And you're getting James Ward-Prowse finding his range. And I think someone said it previously, him having a free kick, it's just like him having a penalty, isn't it? So I thought that was really impressive.
Yeah, it seemed a clear instruction, don't dive in around the box, which it seems common sense, but like you say, a lot of teams in the Premier League, I remember the one at the free kick he scored at Everton when Anthony Gordon just barged straight into one of the Southampton players 25 yards out, and you're thinking, that's just brain dead. It was pleasing to see we weren't doing that. We weren't giving stupid fouls away, because, like you say, James Ward-Prowse's free kicks are bordering on ridiculous. Really, it is like a penalty, and we saw it at Ellen Road last year. We put one straight in the top corner. So we just seemed cleverer, more streetwise.
Didn't seem as frantic, did it?
No, this is going to sound daft, but it seemed like watching normal football. That's the only way I can explain it. It was like watching a game of football where you've got people out wide, you've got your midfielders being midfielders, you've got your defenders making. It just seemed like that is how football. Sometimes I think coaches overcomplicate things.
Yeah, 100%. I think Aney's right as well. This needs to improve, doesn't it, Brownie? Corners were crap as usual. I think I was pulling my hair out at some point. It just seems that the short corners weren't really working, and then the balls into the box. I mean, there was one which just bounced before the first man. I think that's something that I'm sure Grazia will be focusing on, because, like we said, Brownie, at this point in the season, Grazia and we as Leeds fans would take a 1-0. Ball being thrown into the box and it going in off Cox's arse or something like that. Nobody cares as long as the ball's in the back of the net. And with set pieces, you give yourself such a chance to do that. And I think that's definitely something they'll be looking at improving.
Of course. And he said himself, didn't he? He said in the lead up to the game and after the game that in a short space of time, he can't change too much. I think when a new manager goes in, you can't make wholesale changes to a team. Because it's just too much information for players to take on board. So there'll be things that he has seen, he is wanting to change, he's wanting to implement his style, but he's wanting to do that gradually. But set pieces, why me? I mean, how a professional footballer can't beat the first man. And it's not just a one-off. You see it time and time. And it's not the same player either sometimes. Sometimes it could be Greenwood, sometimes it could be Harris. Down the years, we saw Barry Douglas. It just seems like they're aiming for that first man. I know in the Bielsa era, they were aiming for that front post, because if it did get headed out, then we'd recover the ball and we've got the ball still. So they packed that front side of it. But, I mean, different coaches have different ideas. But for me, just get it in the box and give someone a real chance to go and edit. If it gets cleared, it gets cleared. But I'd rather see Koch, Vober, Bamford being able to go and attack something.
Yeah, a lot of people as well saying, I heard Gary as well from New Zealand, a lot of people saying, Harrison had a better game. Bro, I mean, obviously he was on the right, wasn't he? And I think, don't get me wrong, there's a results bias, because obviously we won the game, so everybody seems, a lot better than they were. But for me, he just narrows the space a little bit, Brownie, on that right-hand side. I don't think that was working as much. Obviously, naturally, it takes a lot of touches, doesn't it? I felt it gave Southampton a little bit of time to close him down, because he takes so many touches. I don't think it really worked with Ayling on that right-hand side, because you look at the comparative between him and Ayling and Nonto and Firpo, and I thought Nonto and Firpo almost it was clockwork, wasn't it? Nonto would get the ball, he'd either jink inside, or Firpo would produce an overlap. It almost felt a little bit like Harrison and Alioski in that first Bielsa season. But I'm not really sure Harrison on that right-hand side works.
Interestingly, it was Nonto that got took off and Harrison allowed to play on. And
he went on the left, didn't he? Did Harrison go on the left?
He then switched out, and he ended up setting up the goal for Firpo. Listen, I've always said, and I've said it all year, Harrison shouldn't be in the centre of the pitch. For me, he wants to get the ball out wide, hug the touchline, and get at players. So hopefully, in the coming weeks, he gets back to his role of being out wide. Because, I mean, the same could be said for Pascal Struijk this season. He's playing in a position that's not really his. Yeah. I think we've seen a decline in him as well. He's not been the same player out wide. And he's done a great job, don't get me wrong. But then in the games when he's gone back to centre-half, you've seen him struggle a little bit because it's unfamiliar again. So with Harrison going back out, I just think it might take 1 or 2, 3 games for that familiarity to come back. But if not, then yeah, it is a bit of a problem, because I do agree. I think if we'd have lost that game, I don't think people would be saying Harrison looked better today. I think the result does cloud people's, I don't want to say people's judgment, but everybody just feels much happier when you've won. So you let people away with certain things because we have won. I think if we want to end of a 1-0 defeat, then people are probably going, he was rubbish, he wasn't great, get him out of the club. And that's just the way of football.
Yeah. A lot of people talking about Firpo. I think we've touched on him, but I wanted to touch on Rutter as well, Brownie. I wasn't a massive fan of people hounding him, to be quite honest with you. Last time he came on, I didn't think he was as bad as people going on and saying, in the last game. However, I understood the criticism. I mean, he's 20 years old. He can't help the price tag that's on his back. And it was his first game, his first cameo, really. But I thought yesterday, Brownie, when he came on, some excellent touches, really good utilisation of the ball, was putting the defenders on the back foot. And I thought you really saw elements of quality there, mate. I thought he was really, really good when he came on. Really helped Leeds out, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, when he came on against Man United at Ellen Road, I think the switch with him and Bamford, it did change. Not just that change. I thought the Martinez for Shaw substitution was tactically very good. Shaw then went out to left back and could get forward. Thought that substitution was brilliant and really hampered us. But I did feel the Bamford route of change. It killed us getting out a little bit. But he still had touches of brilliance, flicking it around the corner. You can see that quality. You can see that there. For me, is he a number 9? I'm not sure. Is he a player that would like to play off a number 9? I think if you've got a battering ram up there, I think his game would be improved immensely. And maybe that's something we will see more of going forward, a 2 up there with Grazia, liking to have 2 forwards. At Watford, he had Delafeu coming off a striker, whether it be Troy Deeney or whether he had someone buzzing around a big battering ram. And I think that will help him massively. I think you're right. The price tag, he didn't say, right, I'm worth 35 million. That's not him, and that's not on any player. But at the end of the day, that is what clubs and fans see. They see 35 million spent, and they expect to see results straight away. And I said this in the last debrief show: when you're spending 35 million on a player, he's got to play. It can't be a project for down the line when you're sat 19th. When you're spending that money, it's got to be someone who's going to come in, hit the ground running and score goals. He'll probably play midweek at Fulham, another game under his belt. And I think you were right what you said. He hadn't played a lot of football since November with the World Cup break. So there's that element to it as well. But at 20 years old, I mean, my favourite, Tyler Roberts, if he's getting 100 chances to play in the first team, then I think Jorginho's got a little bit of time on his hands.
What's your thoughts on Jamie said here, and Rocker, we need him. I can't help Brownie but think in this system where you're seeing the fullbacks fly forward, we're utilising overlaps again. If he's going to play in midfield, a double pivot in that midfield, and maybe we're not going to switch to a 3, I don't know how he's going to go about it. He's got loads of formations that he can use in his arsenal, he has done before. I still would like to see Rocker in there. I still think him getting the ball on the back foot and switching it quicker in that first half, for example, if he was part of the setup, would have given Leeds a lot going forward. I thought, he's one of those players. I was saying to the lad who I was with at half time, I said the problem is nobody's taking a risk. I said as I said to you, the safety's on, the handbrake's on. I think Rocker coming into this side would get the ball on the back foot and he'd just switch it and he'd look at moving, forward instead of laterally and back all the time. What are your thoughts on that? Because obviously he's going to be coming back in, he was celebrating yesterday. Look, I was next to him on the touchline. He was buzzing and it looks like he's going to be coming back into the setup very, very soon in terms of contention for the starting 11. If they are playing a double pivot, what would you do there? Would you keep it as McKennie and Adams or would you look at freshening it up?
I think I'd look at game by, I think at Chelsea away, I think I'd play all 3. I think I really would pack that midfield. I'd play all 3. You could have Jorginho one side, Nonto the other. Harris, you've got loads of options. I'm not sure how far Sinisterra is away, but you could have Bamford down the middle and two runners off him with a 3 in midfield. I think that's the way I'd feel. we're saying the handbrake on. It's probably the way I'd have played it at home yesterday. Like I said, we didn't need to win the game in the first half, and with literally no confidence running through the team, if we'd have gone behind yesterday, I don't think we recover. So I can understand that element of being a little bit cautious, and I think they were as well. I think they were really cautious as well. I didn't see them flooding numbers forward either. It really did have a feel of two teams not confident, not to lose the game. But yeah, I think we'll see games where all three of them do play. I'm not sure when all three are fit. If you were just playing two, you can't drop Adams. Can McKennie play a little bit more advanced and have Adams and Rocker being the two holders with McKennie a bit further higher and wide? I think he played that way for USA in the World Cup. He played high. He seemed to be getting into the box a lot more for USA than he does for us. So maybe that's something that we can look at. But it'd be just nice to have them options, because of recent weeks our bench has been, I don't want to say poor, but it's looked vulnerable. The bench has looked weak. And I know we've got a massive injuries at the minute, but no disrespect to him, I thought it was telling that Greenwood didn't come on. For me, he's not a defensive midfielder, but he's been having to play there. He's had the feel of square pegs in round holes. So it would be nice to have all three of them back fit. And then it's a nice selection headache for the manager to have. Just gives competition for players as well. Some players may have been on easy street. Form may suffer when you've not got anybody competing with you.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. Okay, everyone. Well, we're going to leave it there. It's been a short Sunday session. But what we're going to do is we're going to head over to the Patreon now, and we're going to be talking the Fulham game and the Chelsea game. So really appreciate your chat. We're probably going to be talking a little bit of Victor Orta as well, because I want to get into that one. But if you want to click the link in the description, everybody just helps support the channel, helps support us do the debrief and stuff with subscriptions, etc., etc. And yeah, we'll catch you in a bit. Cheers for joining along. And as you say, if you want some extra content, head on over to the Patreon. Cheers, guys.